Launching a state-owned clean power company modelled on French national provider EDF and Sweden's Vattenfall, Sir Keir Starmer said Great British Energy will cut energy bills for good as families face the threat of £900 annual energy price spikes under the Tories. On the face of it, that is a worrying projection, but it's based on the recent history of soaring prices being repeated. This is the energy price cap, and Labour say that in the 2 years since the war in Ukraine began pushing up prices, consumers have paid £1,880, or about £900 a year, more than these pre-war prices, and all of that before the £94 billion of government support that limited household bills. Now, they argue that as long as the UK is a net importer of natural gas, it will remain exposed to spikes like these in future. Now, how likely that is depends on your view of global events, but Labour and the Conservatives actually agree the way to increase energy security and cut these bills is to accelerate the transition to renewable and low-carbon sources. Where they differ is how fast. Labour says the Conservatives have blocked clean homegrown power, holding back efforts to build cheaper and more secure forms of energy. Now, this chart shows how much renewable energy capacity the UK currently has, around 15 gigawatts each of offshore and onshore wind and solar. But onshore wind, the green line, has flatlined because of government planning rules in England, and offshore wind, the blue, has stalled in the last year as a government auction round failed. Now, this is where the Conservatives say they want to get to. No increase in onshore wind, but a big increase in solar and offshore wind capacity up to 50 gigawatts. Now, Labour's wind targets, the dotted lines, they are larger and, crucially, they are faster. They want to decarbonise the grid entirely by 2030. That's 5 years before the Conservatives, just 6 years away, which everyone in industry and even Labour privately agree is massively challenging. But Keir Starmer argues that aiming for these targets will cut bills. Great British Energy says it's part of our mission to make Britain a clean energy superpower by 2030, helping families save £300 a year off their energy bills. Now, that £300 figure is contested and complicated. Renewable energy is cheaper, but only once you've paid for building the infrastructure, much of which needs subsidy. And with the electricity transition alone forecast to cost more than £100 billion, the majority of which will come from the private sector, Great British Energy, with just £8.3 billion to invest in the first term, will, in the short term at least, have a relatively small part to play.